Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is Credit Suisse has now fallen. And the article I'm about to show you says that there is a new East currency in process of rising. Now, before I get started, I want to say a big thank you. I know some of you email, and by the way, thank you very much for your emails. Some of you email and say, how do you do what you do every day? How do you look through all of this negative stuff and bring us negative every day? Well, I think if I couldn't get on and talk to you, it would drive me nuts, because I have all of this prophecy, all of this warning exploding inside of me, and you're my outlet. You're my chance to get on and talk about it. So maybe a little therapy, but you listening, help me. Help me to sort it out. I cannot tell you how many times I've been talking to a friend, and we'll just inevitably get started talking about the events that are going on. And a lot of times, some of the revelations I get to bring you is because I was just sitting talking to a friend and things come to me. I'm reading articles and things come to me. I'm reading the Bible and things come to me to bring to you. So thank you. And I think that 2023 was a good year for Bible prophecy. I think a lot of people began to pull the cotton out of their ears. And the scales are at least getting loose on some people. I think 2024 is going to be a shocking year. A year like no one has ever seen before, especially no one in America. So anyway, let me get on to it today. Oh, one more thing. This is the one time of the year that we ask for support for Prophecy Club. We do this every year about this time, just before Uncle Sam says you can't give any more on 23 after midnight of December 31st. And so if you'd like to help Prophecy Club, now would be a really, really good time. It's your last opportunity to get a donation given to one of your favorite ministries. Hopefully we're on the list of that. And you can do it a number of ways, prophecyclub.com. You can click the QR code at the bottom, and it'll go to make a donation real easy. But anyway, let me just say thank you. Thank you, because you guys help me. And how do I put up with this every day? When you're called to do something, it's a delight to do. I might add, my wife and my sons. We just had my two sons here, my daughter here, and it's like, don't talk any more of that prophecy stuff, because they grew up in it. But me, and a few of my close friends, Leslie does not want to sit down and talk about Bible prophecy. She does not want me making comments like, for example, we don't put up a Christmas tree. That's pagan. We don't do pagan things in this house. And so when we have friends come over, where's the Christmas tree? And I said, it is not in this house, nor in our church. We don't do things that are pagan. If you knew the background of the Christmas tree, you'd know why we don't. Okay, so it's a privilege to do what I do, and it's a privilege that you guys come and. I'm going to tell you a little private conversation I had with the Lord the other day. Let me jump back here. Let me get off of this. I was talking to the Lord, as I do a lot, and He answers a lot. Not always audible, seldom. Matter of fact, I've heard the audible voice count them up, 4, maybe 5 times. But that doesn't mean He doesn't talk. He talks. Matter of fact, sometimes He talks when you wish you didn't hear Him. But anyway, what is it that would really make me happy? And I was just I asked the Lord, I said, so if you were to ask me what would make me happy, I would say when people begin to listen. And as you recall, June 14th, 2008, that was the night he told me, Stan, I will give you the money to drill the well in Israel. That was also the evening he showed me of Leslie holding up newspapers of those prophecies. As a matter of fact, the audible voice of God that night said, Stan, when those prophecies I gave your wife begin to come to pass, people from all directions begin to turn and listen to your ministry. That's going to be the day that I'll get a lot of happiness. And I know it's going to be a lot of sadness for the nation. I hate that. But I want to see people listen to the last days prophecies. I want to see them wake up. I want to see them receive Jesus. Second thing would make me happy, and I'll just tell you this. So we were sitting at Christmas dinner just last night, and a fellow that was there that is part of the family, but he never listened to Prophecy Club. He's barely saved, and certainly didn't know anything about Bible prophecy. And I made a comment about Israel. And he says, what are you going to Israel for? And I thought, no. I'm not even going to even go into that. I said, God has shown me a place there. I've never been there, but I've seen it in spirit. I've never seen it in a dream, but I've seen it in the spirit. I know exactly where to go to do something. And that's, I shouldn't say anymore. But when we can go to Israel, when we finally find oil in Israel, and a lot of the prophecies in the Bible that a lot of people are snubbing their nose at and turning their nose up, they don't want to hear none of that stuff, those prophecies start coming to pass. There's going to be a lot of people wish they'd been listening. That'll be the other day that I will be very happy when they start listening to the Lord, and there's a lot of people saved. All right, let's get on. So, Credit Suisse. Here's the article. Now, this is not a financial company or website. I want you to look at this. This is war news. It's actually in Russian. And I have to go over there and get it translated from Russian into English. So they're not saying this because they're trying to sell some newsletter. They're not even in the West. They're over in the East. Okay, so I think this is extremely credible and extremely powerful. This tells us what the East is thinking. Nuclear blow to Russians, Chinese, Saudis against the U.S. West. They ruined Credit Suisse and laid the foundation for the currency of the East. We've been talking about this. Shane Warren told us this back in 2010, that when they start selling oil in another currency other than the dollar, it's going to kill the dollar. Boom, here it is. Let's go on. Even the Kremlin heard the crash of the release of Credit Suisse, the institutional giant of capitalism and pillar of the U.S. Western Pan-American or Pan-Empire. Now, let me also say, this website's not against America, and it's not for Russia. To me, and I've been reading it now for about 6 months, I find it very, very helpful. I find it to be right in the middle. I find it to be a website that brings just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And I find it to be very, very helpful. But what happened, and while American and European media were propagandizing 24 hours a day in the dissolution of Russia and the collapse of the Russian banks, in the end, the exact opposite happened. In other words, because we put all the sanctions upon Russia, they thought it would collapse Russia, but instead the exact opposite happened. The answer was given at an unsuspecting time by Putin himself, the Russian president, which said, they keep blaming Russia for the food crisis, as you experts will know, that the crisis started from the times of an anti-pandemic measure where some developed countries or economies abused their monopoly power in the terms of currency monopolies. They opened the printing press, it's talking about America right here, okay, Federal Reserve, Bad guys in the West, the Molochs. They opened the printing press in the USA and printed $5.9 trillion. This corresponds to 38% of all the money that the Federal Reserve has ever printed. The Federal Reserve, as I recall, came into being in 1933, I believe is correct. They printed them over 2 years. Did you catch that? So 38% of all of the Federal Reserve notes printed since 1933, if that's correct, have been printed in the last 2 years. What does that do? It makes our currency worthless, but it hasn't. The average American hasn't realized it yet. It's kind of like the music has stopped, but people are still walking around. But there's going to be somebody that doesn't have a seat, and that somebody is about to be America. It goes on to say the same percentage, and in the Eurozone, they printed 2.5 trillion, meaning Europe is about to collapse financially too. They released that money into the economy and distributed it to the world, which is not a bad thing in itself. We used a similar tactic, but we were very careful. It was done in moderation so it didn't lead to such a wave of inflation. In short, the ECB and the USA printed trillions, both dollars and euros. Then they raised interest rates because of inflation, which inflation rose because of the war and the sanctions they imposed on Russia to collapse its economy. This is the Russian President Putin telling America what evil people in charge of America has done to destroy it. At the same time, the Biden administration was already spending American taxpayers' money on Ukraine. Now, who's Ukraine? Well, people in Ukraine are actually Nazis. That's the same people that killed the Jews back in World War II, the same people that we defeated, and now we're sending them arms and money. Okay, evil people are in control of America right now. And by the way, we don't get the leadership we want. We don't get the leadership we deserve. We get the leadership that looks like us. So because the heart of America has turned dark and cold and evil, that's what we get leading us. So it's pretty hard to think that God is going to put someone in the White House that could be really, really good. Anyway, let's go on. Over $100 billion went to Kyiv, which made the situation worse. The Chinese then started selling U.S. bonds, preparing to invade Taiwan. Months before they had proceeded with a stress test on banks and the economy to see the vulnerability points in the case of American and European sanctions. In addition, the Russians threw the dollar out of their trades while Saudi Arabia was later added to the group. The U.S. Riyadh crisis is unprecedented and shows what is coming to the dollar, the death of the dollar, okay? And the United East, that's what we call the BRICS, will continue to beat the American and European banks by laying the groundwork for a new currency. Okay, it's a whole new currency. It's a new system. And America, that used to be on the top, is about to go to the bottom. A currency that will not be based upon compressed air, but on resources, energy, natural gas, in other words, actual assets. Now, do you remember this? It was a long one. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to point out a couple of things. This is what Coverstone was shown back in 2020. I saw elderly people being attacked because they were older Americans that hold the Constitution and flag dear. They were attacked because they had common sense values, a commitment to Christian faith and biblical principles. I saw these people trying to get into nursing homes in order to attack older people. I then saw a $100 bill the size of a flag hanging on a pole, burning at one corner. It was being lowered like a flag is lowered at the end of day. People had their hands over their hearts for crying because the god of money was being lowered. This has now started as of January 1. The dollar had lost its value and burned until only about a third of it was left. To the protesters of the death dollar was a celebration. Many people were celebrating what others were devastated and totally torn up by the death of the dollar. The value of the American dollar was dying. In other words, all the excess money that America has enjoyed for the last 70 years, poof, it's about to go. I heard someone playing taps in the background. And here's another one that reminded me of. Again, I'm only going to read part of it. Then the man I always see approached me with a scale in his hand. You know, the kind that you weigh produce on. On that scale was a bowl with the currency of the world, yen, ruble, US dollar, and the euro. He held the scale high above his head and threw the scales to the ground where it powdered and the wind blew it into the air. The bowl had remained in his hand. He said, I determine the value of what is valued, but the soul of this nation worships paper, and paper is all it will be. The time of bracing is past, and the season of endurance is upon the body of Christ. Endure now, endure tomorrow, and endure to the end. Wake up. Stay awake and work while yet it is day, for the night comes and it will be darker than you can believe. So when that dollar falls, starting January 1, it's going to be tough. Now let's go back to the article. We're still in the same article for more news. Saudi Arabia to USA. Not a drop of oil to anyone who imposes a ceiling. Saudi Arabia has issued a clear warning that it will not sell a single drop of oil to any country that attempts to impose a price ceiling. In other words, America is not going to be able to get Saudi to lower their price or not to raise the price. Saudi is going to do what they want to do from now on. If a price cap is imposed on Saudi oil exports, we will not sell oil to any country that imposes a price cap on our supply. We will reduce oil production, and I will not be surprised if others do the same, Saudi Arabia's energy minister said. It is recalled that the bill gives the United States government opportunity to file anti-monopoly lawsuits against OPEC member states and their partners. But, according to bin Salman, this bill will lead to an imbalance in the supply and demand of oil in the world market. The NOPEC bill fails to recognize the importance of maintaining excess capacity and the consequences of not maintaining it on market stability. NOPEC would also undermine investment in oil capacity and cause a significant reduction in global supply relative to future demand. What's he saying? Saudi's going to do what they want to do. They're going to set the price of the oil. They're going to sell it who they want to. America's no longer in charge. I have to reiterate the point that I made in August and September about how such policies would inevitably exacerbate market volatility and negativity about the oil industry. This is Salman speaking. Has made an effort and succeeded in bringing significant stability and transparency to the oil market. It is recalled that in May 2022, the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, now hang on just a second. So right now, since Saudi Arabia doesn't need America to protect it anymore, now the Russians are protecting it. And so that also means that Saudi Arabia can sell their oil to whomever they want to at whatever price they want to. Try to imagine right in the middle of this, all of a sudden, if there was a massive oil discovery in Israel. And then try to imagine a period of a few months to a few years down the road, Saudi and most of the other Arab nations around Israel, their wellhead pressure stopped dropping. And they drop more and more and more until finally they are out of oil. Can you see that would be the hook in the jaw that draws the Russians and all of the rest of the world down to attack Israel? I can. Let's continue with the same article. The Saudis block support. Credit Suisse, largest investor, Saudi National Bank, said it could not provide further financial assistance to the Swiss bank. We can't because we would exceed 10%. It's a regulatory issue. In other words, basically, Saudi said, no, your Western bank of Credit Suisse, we're not going to prop it up anymore. We're not giving it any more money so it can waste anymore. And it means that the Western dollar has had another big brick. Have you ever seen them taking down a building where they're taking it down kind of like a brick at a time? And I remember people have sent me videos of people taking down, and they'll take out one brick, still stands, takes out, or maybe like a tree falling, and you see them, and they'll kind of cut down a little bit more of the wood, cut more of the wood, cut more of the wood, and you wonder, when's that tree going to fall, or when's that building going to fall? Well, finally, the last brick comes out, and then the whole building or the whole tree falls. This is not the first brick, but it may be the last. The dollar is about to fall. After the plunge that its stock recorded up today, up to more than 29%, the drop after Credit Suisse major Saudi shareholders said it would not provide additional capital support for the Swiss bank. The bank shares fell 30% to 1.56 Swiss francs on Wednesday after trading was halted earlier in an attempt to stem the sell-off. Credit Suisse market value has fallen below £7 billion, and the bank having raised £4 billion in capital just a few months ago. In other words, the log is being cut, the tree is being cut, and there's been a lot of cuts into it already, and it's getting really, really weak, and it's probably about to fall. All it needs is a gust of wind or one more little chunk taken out of it, and it's going to fall. Rubini, the collapse of Credit Suisse sets a bomb a la Lehman Brothers. Economist, I'll skip that, says the collapse of Credit Suisse is going to be like a Lehman moment, referring to the collapse of the U.S. investment bank Lehman Brothers in 2007, which was at the start of the global financial crisis. As I pointed out in Bloomberg TV interview this morning, the Credit Suisse crisis is a Lehman moment for European and global markets too big to fail, but too big to save. See, they've been talking about, well, they're too big to fail, too big to fail, too big to fail, but this one is saying, yeah, but this one's too big to save. In other words, it's time to let the tree fall. It's time to let the dollar fall. That's what they're saying. Credit Suisse, default risk, we're still in the same article. The cost of insuring against a possible default on Credit Suisse, as known as CDS, is soaring amid heightened concerns about the Swiss bank's viability. The last recorded price of Credit Suisse CDS, now this is important, 835.9 basis points. I don't understand that. I know what numbers are, though. It goes on to say, the CDS climbing as high as 1,200 basis points. So what that's saying is now it was 1,200, it's down to 835. Okay, I got that. In other words, it's the dollar's going bye-bye. Skip on down, Saudi National Bank, which has ruled out the possibility of throwing more money into the bank as it does not want this percentage to exceed 10%. So the people that could prop it up, the Saudis, has said, no, we're not going to prop it up. A little earlier, the president of Credit Suisse had ruled out the possibility of state aid. Credit Suisse had approached the Swiss central bank, and he said it's going to trigger a worldwide wave of liquidations, that the Swiss bank stock falling 25%, hitting a new record low. Okay. Now, from our point of view, we're hearing that Credit Suisse is about to fall. But what about from the Moloch point of view? These are the people that say by 2030, you'll be broke, you won't own anything, but you'll be happy. See, this is part of their plan to where people can't make their house payments anymore. Who buys the house? Well, the bank. Who owns the bank? That would be the Molochs. Not in every case, but in many of them. Or you can't make your car payment. You can't make your business payment. You lose your business. You lose your, these big, tall, the Trump Tower type buildings, they can't make the payments. And all of a sudden they can pick up the world's wealth for pennies on the dollar. I think that's where they're really, really, really going with this. But the point I'm trying to make today is that dollar's about to go. If you don't want to be on that tree when it falls, in that building when it falls, then I suggest you go to prophecyclubgold.com. You can call them 800-200-4653. I can't give financial advice, but these guys can. Not only that, but they are experts at helping people get their money out of their IRAs and out of their 401ks. Now, I know there's people going to tell you, you can't actually hold gold or silver from an IRA or a 401k. Oh, these people will say, yes, you can. And that's what they do, is they help you get it out of it. Because, like Lindsey Williams said, he said, if it's written on paper, if your money, your wealth is in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. So yeah, you can lose your IRA, you can lose your 401k, you can lose your life's savings in a bank. These people can help you. 800-200-4653. 800-200-4653. Let's talk about Joseph's Kitchen. I actually cooked this loaf of bread you're seeing here. Takes me about 10 minutes to put the ingredients together, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, I get a loaf of bread out like that. Now, if you cut that loaf of bread that weighs about 3 pounds, the loaves you get in the store have most of the good stuff removed. The loaves you get in the store are about 1 pound. That's 3 pounds because it's got the good stuff still in it. Cut that into 14 slices, and if I eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'm satisfied. So on that basis, one loaf can sustain, I didn't say it's everything we want, can sustain one person for a week. Based upon that, it'll get you excellent nutrition. It tastes good, long storage life, 10 minutes to combine the ingredients, 2 hours, 20 minutes to make it. Other wheat that you order arrives in paper bags, which means bugs, rice, humidity can get a hold of it and ruin it. But at Joseph's Kitchen, they send it out in 100 mil thick buckets. Gives you long shelf life. It's stackable. It's nitrogen infuses that hopefully gives it much longer shelf life, kills bugs and things like that. Easily resealable, keep in a climate-controlled area. And they have it in stock. This is an actual picture of part of the warehouse. Here's another picture of these. Actually, each one of those boxes holds 2,500 pounds of wheat. And I think they've got 54 of those boxes, a bunch of them. So Joseph's Kitchen can ship it to you right now. You go to most of these places, they say out of stock. So here's what you want to do. Everybody needs to get a machine package. These are the things that you need to grind the wheat berries. Put them into a grinder. 30 seconds later, you have flour. You put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. Push about 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. Then you have to decide how much food you want. You want food 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And if you want to make certain you have it when the electricity goes down, you can also get yourself a solar generator, all at josephskitchen.com. josephskitchen.com.